Hello, folks, and welcome back to our look at the Vancouver Regional Championships VGC side of things. Today, we have the Masters Top Cut, and we have been seeing some pretty fun teams, some pretty exciting stuff on stream recently. That usually means that some pretty interesting things have been really successful in this tournament, and we have some more of that here today. So, we have Jean-Ulysses Serrano Albuerne. Hope I got all that right. It's a long name, versus Joshua Robinson. And we already get to take a look here at this team. Landorus Incarnate, Rotom Wash here, which is always fun to see, with safety goggles, Terra Steel, Thunderbolt, Hydro Pump, Foul Play, and Will-O-Wisp, a little bit more supportive on this. And Okie Dokie, which is this is actually the second Okie Dokie. I don't remember if we saw it on stream here or at a UIC, but this is the second Okie Dokie that we have seen with that Guard Dog, which essentially reverses Intimidate, Terra Grass, Assault Vest, Knockoff, Drain Punch, Upper Hand, and Gunk Shot. It wasn't too successful last time we saw it on stream, but notably it is paired with Zacian here. Terra Waterization, Behemoth Blade, Play Rough, Sacred Sword, and Protect here. So against opposing Incineroars, Okie Dokie feels pretty good. Makes it so that you can't intimidate these Zacian incredibly usefully or consistently without potentially running into that Okie Dokie. Urshifu Rapid Strike here with Choice Scarf, Terra Grass, Surging Strikes, Aqua Jet, Close Combat, and U-Turn. We've been seeing a lot more of these choice items Urshifu recently, but we'll have to see if that is going to lead to much success. And then we have Tornadus Incarnate here. We've been seeing that a lot with Rain Dance. Rain Dance is great for the Guard Dogs here, I guess. Well, for Zacian and Zamazenta both. Rain Dance works really, really well with them, and Rain Dance can also make Landorus' Sandsear Storms hit. This team is super exciting. I don't know if we'll see Okie Dokie come to this matchup. As you will see here, it doesn't really have too much that is matching it very well. A lot of times, though, with Zacian, we will see the Regidrago, but I think that Okie Dokie is taking up that slot. On the opposing side here, though, for Joshua Robinson, we have Calyrex Ice Rider. It is Terra Grass, Trick Room, Protect, Glacial Lance, and High Horsepower. Amoonguss here is Terra Normal. Again, we've been seeing a ton of different Terra types for Amoonguss. Terra Normal is the newest one that we have seen so far. Spore, Rage Powder, Protect, all very standard, and then Pollen Puff rounding it out here. We've seen that buff or reheal Calyrexes quite a bit, make things feel a lot more survivable. In DDF, set Psychic Terrain and prevent any opposing priority moves, mainly Fake Out or Prankster Taunt, that we could potentially see out of things like Tornadus sometimes, though not in this case. Psychic, Follow Me, Helping Hand, and Trick Room here, as well as the Safe Goggles of its own, and it's Terra Ground. Ogerpon Teal Mask here is not something we see very often. It is that Terra Grass. It does have Focus Sash and Defiant, so again, an Intimidate, what's that called? Can't remember it. Deterrent, that's what it is. An Intimidate Deterrent for Joshua as well. And this has Superpower along with Ivy Cudgel, Spiky Shield, and Follow Me. A very interesting choice here. Some additional fighting type damage alongside this Urshifu Rapid Strike, which is Surging Strikes, Close Combat, U-Turn, and Coaching, and then rounding things out with a Pelipper here. I didn't get a full look at that Pelipper set. I'm honestly going to rewind a little bit here because I want to take a look. My apologies. Rewind a little bit here. Take a look at this Pelipper. Hurricane, Weather Ball, Helping Hand, and Wide Guard, Covert Cloak, and Terra Grass. So should probably be a little bit on the bulkier side for this Pelipper. Sometimes we see Pelipper running the Focus Sash. Ends up being a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more fragile. But coming into game number one here, Joshua Robinson is leading the Calyrex and the Ogerpon Teal Mask, and Jean-Ulysses is running the Rotom Wash and the Okie Dokie here with the Assault Vest. So this actually puts a decent amount of pressure onto the Calyrex. The Rotom here has Foul Play and can do quite a bit to the Calyrex, and then the combination of Drain Punch and Knockoff also does a ton of work. This Okie Dokie can also go for Gunk Shot into the Ogerpon, which does quite a bit of damage, and neither of these Pokemon that Jean-Ulysses has out takes too much significant damage from the other Pokemon. The main worry would be if Okie Dokie gets hit by a High Horsepower, but Jean-Ulysses switched out the Rotom Wash immediately here, doesn't want to have to take too much damage from the opposing Ogerpon, and Zacian comes in. Spiky Shield comes out for the Ogerpon, ensuring that it's not going to take too much damage here. Calyrex goes for a Protect as well, just getting to scope out what Jean-Ulysses has going for him on this turn number one. So Drain Punch went into the Ogerpon here, but it does get protected and a little bit of chip damage onto the Okie Dokie. Joshua Robinson now can't click Protect on anything, but does get a little bit of a better understanding of what Jean-Ulysses is going for. Calyrex now gets an opportunity to High Horsepower into the Calyrex slot. It should do quite a bit. If you are Calyrex, you're once again under a lot of pressure, but you do have Follow Me coming out from the Teal Mask Ogre Pawn here. It is probably a little bit on the tankier side. It can probably take this Behemoth Bash pretty well. Never mind, not pretty well. The Focus Sash coming in clutch. No, all right, so not too bulky on this Ogre Pawn here. His action is also just incredibly powerful, and that does take both moves from Jean-Ulysses. The Ogre Pawn does fall in exchange for what might be the Trick Room here. That is indeed the go for Joshua Robinson. That should make this Ice Rider Calyrex the fastest thing on the field. High horsepower, a very good option here into either slot, but you do know that Rotom Wash with Levitate is in the back, so it makes it a little bit risky. Glacial Lance into either of these Pokemon won't do a ton, but now we do see the Indeedee coming out for Joshua Robinson. Another chance at some redirection here. Indeedee might be a little bit bulkier, but sometimes you never know. Sometimes that you get a little bit of special attack training in there, and at the same time, Drain Punch plus Behemoth Bash very well might be enough to take it out. Knockoff as well plus Behemoth Bash might be enough, or the Sacred Sword could be enough. Indeedee has a lot of pressure on it here. We do see the Terastallization coming out for Joshua Robinson here. I imagine this will be the Calyrex that is indeed the choice going into that Terra Grass. That does make it a little bit more vulnerable to gunk shots, but it does not have as much threat from Knockoff or the Behemoth Bash from the Zacian here. We see Jean-Ulysses going for the Terastallization as well. This is going to be the Zacian going for that Terra Water. It's going to allow it to continue to resist Glacial Lances and make sure that it no longer is weak to high horsepower. Notably, we are seeing no switches here for either player here. Helping Hand is actually coming out for the Indeedee. That's going to be pretty big here. Calyrex does get to go for the high horsepower. That does take down the Okidogi pretty cleanly, and Zacian is going to be able to go for a Behemoth Bash, Play Rough, whatever it wants to, Sacred Sword, which it'll do quite a bit. It is at +1, or the Behemoth, not Behemoth Bash, that's Zamazenta, Behemoth Blade rather, but Indeedee takes it pretty darn well. And now Joshua Robinson still has a few more turns of Trick Room left. High horsepower is going to be pretty safe for into the Zacian here. Obviously, Protect is an option. Rotom can go for Foul Play still. That should do a decent amount, especially now that this Calyrex is at +1. But the problem might just be that Glacial Lance, Helping Hand Glacial Lance especially, is a pretty big threat. Indeedee doesn't have to do too much here to provide a ton of value, and if this Calyrex can get just one more KO, that should result in a pretty clean sweep for the rest of this game for Joshua Robinson. We see the Zacian going for the Protect here, Indeedee going for Follow Me, guaranteeing that this Calyrex is going to be able to get at least one move off next turn, most likely. Glacial Lance comes out, goes into the Protectization, and is going to do a decent amount to this Rotom Wash. I'm interested to see how it takes a +1 Glacial Lance with the resistances, and it takes it pretty well. Thunderbolt comes through, that should take out the Indeedee, and it does indeed. Joshua Robinson gonna have to reveal Pokemon number 4 here, but this Calyrex is still in a pretty good spot. It won't be able to take out Rotom Wash next turn, most likely, but with this Amoonguss coming onto the field now as well, 3 redirectors for Joshua Robinson feels really, really good. Very clearly showing that this Ice Rider Calyrex is the point of focus for Joshua Robinson here. 3 extremely supportive Pokemon for it, giving Joshua the ability to just max out on the redirection and get as many attacks off with this Glacial Lance as possible. And with that Pollen Puff going to the Rotom Wash, that puts it into range for this Glacial Lance, which now takes it out. That gives Calyrex a +2 boost now due to that Chilling Neigh, and Calyrex still being at full HP. This Behemoth Blade is going to do some decent damage, but it is very defensively bulky, and Calyrex now goes to half HP, but that leaves Amoonguss with the ability to Pollen Puff into Calyrex and heal it basically all the way back up to full. Urshifu is now on the field, and it's going to have to lock into a move here. Surging Strikes is probably maybe your best bet, but Close Combat means that you're not going to take as much recoil damage from the Amoonguss here. If you lock into Surging Strikes, that means you're almost certainly going to go down to the Amoonguss, which is still going to be the fastest thing on the field. You do resist Glacial Lance with both of your Pokemon, but I don't know if that is going to be enough. Again, Pollen Puff is going to be able to move first here, but you also have to worry about what is the... I'm losing it today, y'all. Whatever the redirecting move, a Rage Powder, that's what it is. Rage Powder from the Amoonguss. Zacian goes for Protect again here. Pollen Puff, though, comes out into the Calyrex. It's going to heal it up. I believe almost all the way to full. Yeah, almost all the way, not quite all the way. Calyrex does go for high horsepower initialization here, so no damage coming out for Joshua Robinson on this turn, but does get a little bit of health back. Close combat into the Calyrex doesn't take it below half, and now Urshifu's defenses fall. So Trick Room does reverse here, but Amoonguss can still go for Rage Powder. And again, it's a very defensively tanky here. It will result in recoil damage to both of these Pokemon on Jean-Ulysses' side due to that Rocky Helmet. Close combat comes through. It's going to do a little bit of damage, but I don't think that that's going to be nearly enough to make it worth it for this Urshifu. And now with a double defense drop as well as the Rocky Helmet damage, that should put this Urshifu into range. Behemoth Blade does take down the Amoonguss with a critical hit. Rocky Helmet recoil, though, does a little bit more work. And now this Calyrex, it should be able to take down this Urshifu with the Glacial Lance, and if it can survive the next attack from the Zacian, never mind, it doesn't need to, it just does enough. The +2 doing the work here. That's going to be Joshua Robinson taking game number 1. I mean, that is a very straightforward and good game plan, quite frankly. It's not incredibly difficult to execute. It's certainly not the easiest thing in the world, but when you have just 3 good redirectors that can kind of give you some different modes, Ogerpon provides some more damage in terms of threat, in terms of putting pressure on your opponent. Indeedee can allow you to set up Trick Room easier. It also stops any potential fake outs or a fake out cycle from coming through. And then Amoonguss allows you to heal up your Calyrex towards the end game, apply spores to Pokemon that can get put to sleep or that you want to try to take out of the game for a couple of turns, as well as provide that redirection. So triple redirectors for Joshua Robinson, and Jean-Ulysses was able to do a little bit of damage there, but Rotom, if it had been able to get a foul play off here or there, put Calyrex under more threat, then might have been able to turn that game around, but Calyrex just was never under too much pressure. So going into game number 2, I'm interested to see how Jean-Ulysses adapts. Again, Okie dokie, I don't know if it's great in this matchup, but we'll have to see if that is still the play. So going into game number 2, Joshua Robinson leads the same 2, and we see a big change up here from Jean-Ulysses. It is going to be the Tornadus and the Urshifu Rapid Strike. This is where we could see that Rain Dance Surging Strikes combo that does a lot of damage. You do have the opportunity to go for Tailwind here. I don't know if that is your primary goal. Bleak Wind Storm, obviously available, will be super effective into the Ogerpon here, and breaking that Focus Sash is going to be pretty important. You do have the Taunt as well for Jean-Ulysses, which is pretty big. If you taunt the Calyrex, that does extremely limit Trick Room options here, and if you can survive through a Glacial Lance potentially, then you could set up a Tailwind of your own and make quite a few more changes to your game plan heading into the future. If you can limit Joshua Robinson from getting Trick Room up, those 3 redirectors aren't going to feel quite as strong, quite as powerful for Joshua Robinson. And in the previous game, we saw this, the Spiky Shield and what's probably going to be a Protect for the Calyrex. No, not a Protect for the Calyrex, actually. That's going to be pretty big. Urshifu goes for the U-turn here, goes through the Spiky Shield and gets a ton of damage onto that Ogerpon here. And now Jean-Ulysses gets a switch. We get to see the last 2 Pokemon in the bag. Zacian is not surprised, but Rotom Wash is once again coming out to play. If it can get a Will-O-Wisp off as well, that would be pretty big into the Calyrex. But I'm interested to see what Joshua Robinson is going for. Notably, since this Urshifu moved first, that is telling us that this Tornadus is going for Bleak Wind Storm. That would have been a great move to potentially take out this Ogerpon if it didn't protect, but Calyrex not protecting also means that it is probably going for a Glacial Lance or a Trick Room, I would imagine. We see the Bleak Wind Storm comes out. We could also see a high horsepower. If it's a high horsepower into the Zacian slot, that's going to be incredible. Bleak Wind Storm does a little bit into the Calyrex, but obviously Ogerpon with that Spiky Shield not taking any damage. It is just going to be that Glacial Lance. It's going to be super effective on this Tornadus, and it should take it down outright. About 20% deltization, but with no Taunt and no Trick Room, or no Taunt, no Tailwind, no Rain Dance either going up for Jean-Ulysses, any move there, honestly, other than the Bleak Wind Storm, would have put Jean-Ulysses in some type of advantage. Give Jean-Ulysses some type of move forward, some type of applicable pressure, but Now, this Ogerpon can just go for a follow me, guarantee that one of these two incredibly powerful physical Pokemon cannot get a lot of damage into the Calyrex. Zacian obviously is under a decent amount of pressure to switch out. It does not want to take a high horsepower. It could also just Terrastalize, which could be pretty big. If you're Joshua Robinson, you are under a decent amount of threat with this Calyrex. You don't necessarily want to take a Behemoth Blade right now. You're still an Ice type, but going Terra Grass still feels pretty good. You're still going to resist any of the surging strikes that come through, and it makes you and it just takes away a lot of your weaknesses. So we see the Terastallization come through. It is going to be that Terra Grass, especially now that Tornadus is not on the field, does not get to make any plays. Going Terra Grass here feels a lot better for Joshua Robinson. You're guaranteeing that you're not going to have that massive weakness liability, and we do see the follow me. So Ogerpon is going to be tanking one of these hits here, and it is going to be from that Urshifu, which goes for U-turn. The Zacian is not switching out notably, so if high horsepower is going into that slot, which again, that's risky if you're Joshua Robinson, but if you make a good call there, that could just be it for Zacian. Rotom Wash is going to be the required choice for Jean-Ulysses here. That is going to show Joshua Robinson all three remaining Pokemon for Jean-Ulysses. Behemoth Blade comes out. We know it does a decent amount to the Calyrex, brings it down to a little under a quarter of its HP, but now Trick Room is going up. That means this Calyrex gets to move first, almost no matter what, depending on if we see an Amoonguss in the back here. Although last time for Joshua Robinson, again, we saw those triple redirectors, and Indeedee is the choice here. So Psychic Surge comes out. Joshua Robinson isn't too worried about any priority moves. I mean, in theory, you're worried about an Aqua Jet coming out from the Urshifu, which could do quite a bit of damage, but I believe Calyrex could probably survive that. But with the Psychic Terrain up, you no longer have to worry. Now, Indeedee can redirect. Indeedee can go for Helping Hand. Helping Hand here plus Glacial Lance would do quite a bit, but we know it wouldn't take out Rotom. I don't think it would take out Zacian from this HP, but it certainly would do quite a bit. Indeedee instead just goes for the Follow Me here. That should guarantee that at the very least, I mean, Indeedee, I imagine, might be able to survive a combination of Behemoth Blade and Thunderbolt here. I'm not entirely certain. Thunderbolt comes through first. It does quite a bit. Never mind. Okay, Indeedee does get paralyzed, but I don't know if that's going to matter too much here. Behemoth Blade, from what we saw, the amount of damage that it did last time, this should take it out again. It's a little close, but I don't think it's close enough. If Indeedee had something like a defense boost, or some type of defense boost or something along those lines, or Terastallization away into a resisted type, it probably would happen, but just not quite good enough. Amoonguss comes in now. We saw it go for Pollen Puff previously to heal up the Calyrex, and can just go for it again here. I feel like that is not a terrible move. It could also very well go for a Pollen Puff into the Rotom to put it into range of a KO from the Glacial Lance. Glacial Lance should take out Zacian now from this spot here. We see a Terastallization coming out for Jean-Ulysses, though. This might keep Zacian alive enough. No, it is going to be the Rotom going into Terra Steel, notably. I don't know if that is going to change anything for Jean-Ulysses. I think it, because you already resisted, you're going to remain resistant to that Glacial Lance, and Zacian goes to sleep here. Night. Now, what is going to happen with this Rotom is the big question. Zacian is just going to get KO'd here. If you're Joshua Robinson, you're technically covering for the Urshifu potentially switching in there, which is pretty big. What is the Rotom going for? If it's a Thunderbolt or Foul Play into the Calyrex, it could be big, but it's a Will-O-Wisp instead, and Calyrex avoids the attack. That is incredibly tough if you're Jean-Ulysses. I think I believe the thought process there is, okay, well, if the Rage Powder comes out, or if the Pollen Puff comes out, then that's going to guarantee that Calyrex's attack is halved. But with the Will-O-Wisp missing and it not being something like a Foul Play, which I think would have guaranteed the win, Jean-Ulysses just has to throw in the towel. And in 2 games that come relatively cleanly, Joshua Robinson takes it home and is going to be moving on to the top 16. That's a little bit, it's a play where if you're looking at it, you know, obviously in hindsight, seeing what happens with the Amoonguss there, you might question it a little bit, but I definitely understand the play there from Jean-Ulysses. Again, if the Amoonguss clicks the Rage Powder, you can get a Will-O-Wisp into it, which is going to guarantee that it slowly takes down damage over time, which probably gives your Urshifu in the back an out if your Zacian goes down. But the Amoonguss specifically not Rage Powdering and that Will-O-Wisp missing kind of just spell doom for the rest of the game. If the Will-O-Wisp hits the Calyrex, you still have a decent shot, I think, if you're Jean-Ulysses, of winning, or at least a much better shot. It's not guaranteed, but it gives you a pretty good route. That said, if your Rotom Wash is still alive after Calyrex Glacial Lances, or potentially Glacial Lances again, because again, last time you saw that Rotom Wash went for Pollen Puff into, or not Rotom Wash, Amoonguss went for Pollen Puff into Rotom Wash in the previous game, and that put it into Calyrex range. And Zacian's going to go down to a Glacial Lance here. You already know that. Then it's tough because I think if you foul play there, that almost guarantees you the win no matter what, if your Rotom is still up. And if Rotom, because if Rotom is going down to the Glacial Lance, the Pollen Puff Glacial Lance, and it's just going down. So I feel like Joshua Robinson gave Jean-Ulysses an opportunity to come back into the game there by not going Pollen Puff. I guess if you're worried about potentially Protect, I don't know. That seemed like a little bit of a weird set of plays there at the end, but it all results in Joshua Robinson moving on to the top 16. So until next time, y'all, which should be a little bit later, be safe, be smart, make wise decisions, and farewell.